أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. So we start off tonight with the recitation of the Fatiha, which is the opening of the Quran, the first chapter in the Quran. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate, praise be to Allah, the Lord of the entire universe, the most merciful, the most compassionate, the master of the day of recompense. You alone do we worship, and you alone do we turn for help. Direct us on the straight path, the way of those who you have favored, who do not incur your wrath, and who do not stray.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming today and joining us in the seminar given by Dr. Ramzan Shahid. We're blessed to have a person that can come here, and we would like to extend our full gratitude to him for reaching out to us, supporting us with planning, and overall making it easier for us to have. Dr. Shahid graduated from the University of Illinois at Chicago with a bachelor's in 1992 and a medical degree in 1996. He has been at Loyola University Medical Centers for over 6 years now. Aside from holding three leadership positions at the medical center, Dr. Shahid has additionally won multiple awards, including Sturt School of Medicine's Teacher of the Year Award 2 years in a row, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, we're blessed to have such an accomplished man join us today. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Shahid.
Thank you so much for extending the invitation to come and talk to the students here at Loyola. Today we're going to talk about a topic that has become an interest of mine in the recent years as I've gotten more involved with different leadership roles. So I have a couple of different roles at Loyola, the medical center there. Can you hear me in the back? Is it okay? Okay. So my main role is as director of the pediatric residency program. So I run the residency program there. The other couple of roles that I have is as medical director of the pediatric clinic, and the third role is division director of general pediatrics. So when I first started at Loyola about 6.5 years ago, I actually joined as the associate residency director, and then over these last 6 years, as people kind of stepped down or moved on, I was able to take over in these various roles and was actually asked to take over in these various roles. So I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing me to take on these leadership roles and be asked to take on those roles then. So as I became involved in these different leadership roles, I wanted to learn more about how to be an effective leader and what qualities it takes to be an effective leader. So I started to read a lot of books on leadership. I started to attend different seminars on leadership, and it was amazing to me what they were saying at these leadership seminars and what these books about leadership were saying, because they were basically quoting the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. They were basically saying exactly what he teaches us in the hadith and the sunnah and the life of the Prophet ﷺ. So after reading these books and attending all the leadership seminars, I came to one conclusion, that by practicing the hadith and the sunnah, you will automatically and naturally become a great leader. So today, inshallah, we're going to talk about some of these hadith and the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and how if we implement them in our lives, we will, inshallah, become great leaders then. So there's lots of definitions of leadership. If you look at different books, there's lots of definitions. This one I particularly like. And this author defines leadership as the skills of influencing people to enthusiastically work toward goals identified as being for the common good with character that inspires confidence. So the reason I like this definition is the two words that I've highlighted here, influence and character. I'm going to spend a little time talking more about those words. But I like this definition because of the emphasis and the use of the words influence and character. Other authors, when they talk about leadership and when they talk about how to measure leadership, this author says that the true measure of leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. Basically influencing other people in a positive way. And that's how you can measure somebody's leadership ability. Now, we have to remember though, you don't have to be in a leadership position. You don't have to have a title. You don't have to have an official position to make a positive influence on people and to act in the role of a leader. So we'll keep that in mind as we go through the discussion, that you don't have to have a title or position, and we're all leaders in different ways. Anytime you interact with someone, you have the potential to be able to influence them in some way. Either you will influence them or they will influence you. So we have to keep that in mind when we're interacting with other people. So there's a book written in the past, first in 1978, and then Michael Hart wrote the book again in 1992. Some of you might be familiar with this book. Some of you might not even have been born when the book was written. But it was titled The 100, a ranking of the most influential persons in history. So basically, he listed all the people who he thought had the most influence in human history, and he ranked them, and said that basically based on this rank, he said that these were the most exemplary leaders in all of humanity. And some of you are probably aware that he actually ranked Prophet Muhammad ﷺ as number one in his books that he had written. So we'll come back to this book as well and talk more about it. But it's interesting that he ranked the Prophet ﷺ as number one when he looked at all the different leaders of mankind and came up with this conclusion. And he wrote the book first in 1978 and then in 1992, and that was when all the things changed with Russia and communism broke down. Then he revised the list. But in both times when he wrote the book, he ranked Prophet Muhammad ﷺ as number one, as the most influential person in the history of mankind, and therefore the most exemplary leader that we've ever had. So, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, if we look at the life of the Prophet, basically we see that his life teaches us how to be a great Muslim. His life further teaches us how to be a great person, and his life teaches us how to be a great leader. And that's what we're going to focus on for the rest of the discussion. So we're going to start with talk about character. So I said we'll come back to character. So if we look at some hadith and some sayings of the Prophet ﷺ related to character. The first hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, "I have been sent to perfect good character." So basically he was sent to mankind to develop our character. And he further said that the best of you are those who possess the best of manners and have good moral character. So he came to teach us the best manners and the best character. And he came to perfect our character and show us how to develop our character. So that's why he was sent to us, to allow us to develop a perfect moral character. Now if you look at books on leadership and see what people are writing today about character and leadership and compare it to what the Prophet ﷺ said 1,400 years ago, it's amazing when you look at the resemblance. So this author says that leadership development and character development are one. So Prophet ﷺ came to develop our character, which means he actually came to develop us as leaders. So we have to keep that in mind as we are studying the life of the Prophet ﷺ. And then he said, the best of you are those who possess the best of manners and have good moral character. So if our actions reflect good moral character, then you will basically be the best among people, right? The hadith is saying that's the best, is the one who has the best moral character. So this hadith is saying that if your actions reflect the best character, you will be the best amongst people. And what do we call someone who's the best amongst people? A leader, right? So the Prophet ﷺ, again, came to teach us leadership skills. And then this author also says that leadership is character in action. So if our character is of a true Muslim, is of good moral character, then we will automatically be developing leadership skills then. So what is character, and what does it mean to have character? So the Prophet ﷺ told us what is character. So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ did not have to choose between two matters, but then he chose the easier of them as long as it was not a wrong action. If it was a wrong action, he was the furthest of people from it. So basically the Prophet ﷺ is telling us what does it mean to have character. And to have character means you always do the right thing. You stay away from anything wrong, and you always do the right thing. That's what character is. When you're faced with a dilemma, when you're faced with a conflict, you always do the right thing. And that's what Prophet ﷺ is saying in this hadith, is that you stay away from any wrong action, and that's what it means to have character. So if you compare this hadith to books on leadership and what these authors say, our character is our level of commitment to do the right thing. Leaders seek to do the right thing. So again, Prophet ﷺ taught us 1,400 years ago what authors of today are saying what it takes to be a great leader. So we need to start to practice and implement the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ and the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and we will automatically and naturally become great leaders. Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha once was asked to describe the personality of the Prophet ﷺ, and she replied that he was the walking Quran. We're all familiar with this, we've heard this before. Meaning that his behavior, his character, was the Quran translated into action. So the Prophet ﷺ's actions indicated that his character was that of a true Muslim who followed the Quran. So if a Muslim follows the Quran, then our actions, our behavior, our character will basically be the Quran in action. And the Prophet ﷺ, whatever actions he took, whatever he did, his actions were never separate from the teachings of the Quran. So when we look at books on leadership, what they say, action is a real indicator of character. You can never separate a leader's character from his actions. So again, if we follow the actions of the Prophet ﷺ, if we implement the Quran in our daily life, then our actions are going to create a great character in us, and then you become a great leader, and you can never separate a leader's character from their actions. So as a Muslim, our actions should never be separate from the teachings of the Quran. If we implement the Quran and we put those into action, then inshallah we'll become great leaders and develop great qualities that are needed to be an effective leader. So Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, this is another famous hadith, everybody is probably familiar with this, that which is lawful is clear, and that which is unlawful is clear. And between the two of them are doubtful or gray matters about which not many people are knowledgeable. Thus, he who avoids these doubtful gray matters certainly clears himself in regard to his religion and his honor. So this is a very famous hadith. So if we compare it to what, again, authors of today are writing about character, what this author says, a leader not only stays above the line between right and wrong, he stays well clear of the gray areas. So it's as if this person was quoting the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, stay away from the gray areas, and that will clear yourself and it will protect you when it comes to religion and to honor. So again, 1,400 years ago, Prophet ﷺ told us this hadith, and now authors of today are saying that's what it takes to be a great leader, is to do the right thing and never go near the gray area, and always stay away from anything that could be a potentially wrong action. So again, if we follow the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, automatically and naturally you start to develop qualities of a leader. And then Prophet ﷺ says that it will protect your honor. If you stay away from the gray areas, it protects your religion and it protects your honor. So when we're protecting our honor, basically you're protecting your reputation, you're protecting your integrity, you're protecting your respect and your dignity. And aren't those qualities that you need to have to be an effective leader? Respect, dignity, right, integrity. So if you protect your honor, you're protecting yourself and allowing yourself to become a great leader as well. Okay, so this hadith is on relationship and the importance of different relationships. So we talked about character, now we move on to this hadith that focuses on relationship. So the Prophet ﷺ said, do you know what is better than charity, fasting, and prayer? So he's telling us what is better than giving money to the poor, giving your zakat, doing your prayer, fasting. What is better than that? Prophet ﷺ says it is keeping peace and good relations between people, as quarrels and bad feelings destroy mankind. So Prophet ﷺ is telling us having good relationships with people is actually better than giving charity, fasting, and praying. So having good relationships with people, when you interact with other people, making sure that it's a good relationship, it's a positive and influential and positive type of interaction. So Prophet ﷺ is telling us that we should not be quarreling, we should not be arguing, we should not be always contentious with other people and trying to prove them wrong and trying to prove ourselves right. Prophet ﷺ is telling that you should be arguing with people. You shouldn't have any bad feelings, right? You shouldn't have any ill feelings toward other people. You shouldn't have any type of grudge or resentment toward other people. You should be caring about other people, get along with people, help people, be kind to people. That's what it means to have a good relationship. So Prophet ﷺ is emphasizing that that is important for us, and in this hadith it's even better than giving charity and doing prayer and doing the fasting then. So if we compare this hadith to, again, a book on leadership that talks about relationship, they say leaders know how to develop relationships. Leadership is a relationship. And relationship means developing a caring attitude about people. So again, exactly what Prophet ﷺ told us in previous hadith, and the importance of having a good relationship with other people and care about other people, and that's what it takes to be an effective leader, is to have a good relationship with other people and a strong interaction with other people. So again, if we follow the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, we automatically and naturally develop qualities that it takes to be a great leader. And again, Prophet ﷺ told us this 1,400 years ago, and now authors of today are explaining that a good relationship is necessary to be an effective leader then. Qualities of a leader. So there's lots of qualities that you can talk about. The books on leadership highlight a lot of different qualities, but I just want to focus on 6 qualities of a leader. So the 6 we're going to talk about, number 1 is patience, then kindness, humility, respect, selflessness, and forgiveness. We're going to talk about these 6 qualities. Now look at these qualities of a leader. Aren't these the qualities that we should all have as Muslims? Isn't this what the character of a Muslim should be like? These exact qualities? So again, the qualities that we should be having as a Muslim are exactly the same qualities that we should be having as a leader then. So let's talk about patience. So hadith of Prophet ﷺ, again, very famous hadith. Everybody probably very familiar with this hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ says, "He is not a wrestler who overpowers his rival, but he who keeps himself under control when roused with anger." So when you feel yourself losing patience with someone, and you're getting angry, and you're about to lose your temper, the Prophet ﷺ is reminding us that a strong person is not the one who can physically take down another person. The strong person is the one who can control themselves at a time of anger, control their emotions, control their temper when they feel that they're losing patience with another person. So the Prophet ﷺ emphasizing that. And the reason the Prophet ﷺ is reminding us of controlling our temper and not getting angry is because when you start to get angry and you you lose your temper and you lose control, you end up saying things and doing things that you normally would not do. You end up doing things that you would regret later on. You end up doing things or saying things that hurt relationships, that you have to go back and do damage control and patch up things. So when you get mad and you lose your temper and get angry, you end up doing things and saying things that you might later on regret then. Prophet ﷺ also said, "One who controls his anger in spite of having strength to enforce it." So this is a hadith that is very specific for somebody in a leadership position. When you have the strength to enforce it, right? So you're a boss, you're a leader, you're a CEO, you have employees, you're in some position of authority, right? So you're in a position to enforce something. So the Prophet ﷺ is reminding us that you control your anger when you have that opportunity to enforce something as your authority. If you control your anger at that time, then Allah will fill the heart of that person with iman and peace. So basically what it's saying is that if you don't control your anger at that time, then what happens is that you lose that peace in your heart. Because again, you flipped out, you started yelling and screaming, you started saying things, doing things you normally would not do. Then later on that night, you're thinking about it, you're tossing and turning, you can't fall asleep, and you're regretting what you said, you're regretting what you did. The next day, you have to go and find that person and apologize. It's an awkward interaction. So there's a lot of things going on. So you lose your peace when you end up losing your anger, losing your temper, and getting angry at that time. So the Prophet ﷺ again is reminding us that if you want to have peace in your heart, then don't get angry and lose your temper and lose control. This hadith is specific for somebody who's in a leadership role who has the power and the strength to enforce something then. So what do books on leadership say? This author says, to show self-control and most importantly impulse control is what is needed as a quality of a leader when they are patient. Then he says leaders cannot have bad tempers and inappropriate outbursts. Again, exactly what Prophet ﷺ is teaching us, that we should not lose our temper. We should not get angry. We need to control our emotions and be patient with people when they're pushing your buttons, when they're saying things or doing things that are annoying you. You cannot lose your temper and have an outburst. And that's exactly what a leader should be like as well then. So again, Prophet ﷺ telling us if we develop this quality of controlling our anger, not losing our temper, and being patient with people, that is a quality that is necessary to be an effective leader then. Another hadith, Prophet ﷺ said, whoever has wronged his brother in the way of property or honor, let him go to him and repair it, before it is taken from him on a day when he has no dirhams or dinars, such that if he has any good deeds, some of the good deeds will be taken and given to the wrong one. Otherwise, if he has no good deeds, some of the other's evil deeds will be taken and cast upon him. So this hadith, I think, is a very, very important hadith. This hadith is reminding us that we should never violate the rights of another person. Meaning, you should never say anything or do anything that will hurt the feelings of another person. We should never insult anybody. We should never embarrass anybody. We should never humiliate anybody. We should never be condescending to anybody. Because this hadith is saying that if you ever treat a person that way, what happens on the Day of Judgment? On the Day of Judgment, the way it's going to be reconciled, when there's no currency that's going to be exchanged other than deeds, is the way it's going to be reconciled is that the good deeds that you did are going to be taken away from you and given to the other person that you wronged. So if I insulted somebody and I made them feel bad and I embarrassed them and I humiliated them, on the Day of Judgment, they're going to steal my good deeds and they'll be put into their account as a way of reconciliation for how I treated that person in this world. This hadith then continues and says, so much so that if you're running out of good deeds, you have no more good deeds, then the other person's evil deeds will be taken out of their account and put into your account. So we have to be very, very careful that we are not violating the rights of anybody that we are interacting with. Whoever they are, whatever background they're from, we should not be treating them in any disrespectful type of way. We should not be humiliating them in any way, because on the Day of Judgment, if we violate the rights of anybody, then this is how it's going to be reconciled on the Day of Judgment. So look at what this author says on leadership. Leaders must learn to control their anger. Acting out of anger and violating the rights of others is inappropriate and damages relationships. So again, this author on leadership is saying exactly what the Prophet ﷺ said in the previous hadith. Do not violate the rights of any person. Always interact with other people in a positive way. And that's what it takes to be an effective leader as well. So again, if we follow the hadith and the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, we will automatically and naturally be developing qualities that are needed to be a great leader. Another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, calmness and patient deliberation is from Allah, and haste is from shaitan. So a Muslim should be calm when making decisions. We should be carefully reflecting on what we're about to say and what we're about to do. So we should always think before we act. We should not be hasty in what we're about to say or what we're about to do then. So this is the hadith of the Prophet reminding us this. And then if we look at what authors on leadership say, leaders are patient, exhibit reflective thinking, and plan ahead. Exactly what the Prophet ﷺ was telling us in the previous hadith about how Muslims should be calm and think through things and not hasty and think and be deliberate and patient. So again, exactly what Prophet ﷺ said 1400 years ago about how we should be behaving as a Muslim in general, but also giving us guidelines on how we can become an effective leader. And now, again, authors 1400 years later are saying the exact same thing, almost quoting the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, the second quality, kindness. So, hadith of the Prophet ﷺ tells us that, so he says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is compassionate and likes tolerance and forbearance, meaning not to be overcome with anger. He wants his servants to be kind and gentle with each other, and he grants more to the kind-hearted than those who are harsh and severe. So this hadith, again, is telling us that Muslims, we should be compassionate, we should be tolerant, we should be patient with others. We should be kind and gentle and warm-hearted when we interact with other people. We should be listening to others. We should be encouraging others. We should be thanking others. We should always be positive when we interact with other people. So that's the character of a Muslim. That's the qualities of a Muslim that we should have. If you look at, again, this book on leadership, this author says the quality of a leader related to kindness is to give attention and appreciation and encouragement to people, to display common courtesies to others. Kindness is about doing things that help relationships flow smoothly. So again, exactly what the Prophet ﷺ was saying in the previous hadith about being compassionate and tolerant and forbearant with people. Okay, another hadith on kindness. Prophet ﷺ said, whoever is devoid of kindness is devoid of virtue. It's basically saying that if you have no kindness in your heart, if your heart is empty of kindness, then basically you have no virtue. You have no righteousness, you have no piety if you don't have any kindness in your heart. And then the opposite would be true, is that if your heart is full of kindness, then your heart is going to be full of virtue. It's going to be full of piety and righteousness. And people who are devoid of kindness, if you don't have kindness in your heart, it's probably because it's filled with something else. Usually the opposite, right? It's usually filled then with some harshness and severity and something of that nature and arrogance and things like that. And that's when somebody's heart, if they're not filled with kindness, it gets filled with these other things. So we have to be careful that we don't get caught up in those type of evils as well then. So if we can have a heart full of kindness, then we will be full of virtue. And then if you think about virtuous acts and things people do who are virtuous, basically you help others, you support others, you praise others, you appreciate others, you encourage others. That's what it means to be virtuous. So if you're kind, then you'll have those type of virtuous qualities then as well then. Another hadith, so this is specific for leaders. If you show kindness to your servant while employing him in some task, this will weigh heavily in your favor on the day of judgment. So this is, again, for somebody who is a boss, somebody who has employees, somebody who is a leader. This hadith specifically is saying that if you show kindness to somebody that is working for you, is working under you, if you show kindness to that person, then on the day of judgment it will be in your favor. So then Allah, inshallah, will be kind to you on the day of judgment. But if you are harsh, if you are severe, if you're always reprimanding somebody, you're always scolding them, you're always punishing them for something they're doing, and they're not doing it to your standards, then on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can hold us accountable and say, well, you didn't do your prayers according to my standard, right? So that He can hold us accountable as well. So you have to be very careful. And this hadith is reminding us that we should be kind, especially when we are employing somebody, so that we don't get into that type of trouble on the day of judgment then. Books on leadership is saying extending ourselves to others by appreciating them, encouraging them, and being courteous to them, and listening well to others. That's the quality of a leader, and the kindness a leader should show. Okay. So another hadith by the Prophet ﷺ. He who is not grateful to people is not grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Basically telling us that we should always be grateful for everybody that is in our lives, everybody that we're interacting with, and we should always appreciate what they're doing for us. And this is reminding us that if we don't thank people that we are interacting with, then in fact you are not being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you are thankful to those people, if you do show gratitude for everything they've done for you, then you are also being thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to appreciate others, we have to give thanks to others, we have to praise others and give credit to others when they're helping us then. That's the way a Muslim should behave. And if we do that, then you're actually being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well then. This book on leadership says, appreciating others, giving praise and credit to others is what a quality of a leader should be. Doing the little things, like saying please and thank you. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Saying things like that. Again, quality of a leader. Again, the Prophet ﷺ, though, his hadith saying the exact same thing that will allow us to become an effective leader. This hadith reminding us that when two people are together, whether walking, sitting, or riding, the one who says salam first is free of pride. So this hadith is telling us that we should be the first one to greet another person. Whether saying salam, whether saying good morning, whether saying hi, hello, whatever, we should be greeting other people. That's an act of kindness. That's how you show respect to another person. And kindness to another person is by being the first one to greet them and say salam or good morning or whatever it is at that time. And this hadith is saying that if a person does that, they're actually free from pride. They don't have arrogance in their heart. Because sometimes we think when we meet somebody who say, oh, you know what, they didn't say salam to me, I'm better than them in some way, and they should say salam to me first, why should I say salam to them? So that's a sign of arrogance. And this hadith is saying that the one that says salam first is free of pride, is free of arrogance, and is greeting the other person first. So this hadith is reminding us that we should be the first ones to say salam and greet another person then. This author in this book on leadership says doing the little things, like being the first one to say good morning in the hallway, is a quality of a leader. Exactly what the Prophet ﷺ said. Be the first one to say salam. Be the first one to greet another person. If we follow that simple hadith, it's a quality that this author says is necessary to be a great leader. 1,400 years ago, Prophet ﷺ telling us this advice, and now an author saying that this is what a leader should be doing 1,400 years later, writing in their book then. This hadith gives examples of kindness. To smile in the company of your brother is an act of charity or an act of kindness. To command to do good deeds and to prevent others from doing evil is charity or an act of kindness. To guide a person in a place where he cannot go astray is charity or an act of kindness. To remove something from the road, like a thorn or a bone, or in this day and age, a nail or something, to remove that is an act of charity or an act of kindness. To pour water from your jug into the jug or the glass of your brother is charity and an act of kindness. To guide a person with defective vision is charity or an act of kindness for you. So many things that we can do, little things that we consider little things, but carry a lot of weight and are examples of acts of kindness and charity and helping others, according to this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, I want to show a little video here, so let's see, hopefully this is going to work. So, just a little video, simple acts of kindness, right? Shouldn't that be what a Muslim does on a daily basis? Shouldn't that be what we do according to this hadith, the little things to help others and to serve others and to be kind to others? Isn't it unfortunate that that video has to be a lot of non-Muslims doing those things? Why can't it be Muslims doing that as well then? Okay. Next, quality, humility. So the Prophet ﷺ told us in this hadith that no one who has the weight of a mustard seed of arrogance in his heart will enter paradise. And arrogance means rejecting the truth and looking down on people. Allah has revealed to me that you must be humble towards one another, so that no one wrongs another or arrogantly boasts to one another. So basically, Prophet ﷺ telling us that Muslims should not be arrogant. We should not be full of pride. We should not consider ourselves better than another person. We should not be looking down upon anyone. We should always be humble. And that arrogance and pride causes you to do wrong things, causes you to wrong others. You think you're better than somebody, you're condescending to them, you embarrass them, you humiliate them, and then as we said before, on the Day of Judgment, our deeds can be taken away and given to that other person then. So Prophet ﷺ telling us to be humble at all times and not to be arrogant. So this author of this book of leadership says, regarding humility, that it's the opposite of hubris. Hubris, which is excessive pride or self-confidence or arrogance. And he says hubris is an evil that can infect leaders. It's also an evil that can infect Muslims as well, right? Prophet ﷺ telling us that we have to be careful and not let that get into our hearts and infect our hearts. And the only way to avoid arrogance is to recognize that you need the help of others to be a successful leader. So you have to be humble and recognize that people are helping you do your job as a leader. And the previous hadith, those who are not grateful to others are not grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, making sure that we are humble, we are thanking others, and recognizing that what they are doing for us and helping us in whatever aspect that they might be involved in our lives. Another hadith, shall I tell you about the people of the fire? All those who are coarse, domineering, and arrogant. So this hadith is telling us that those who are arrogant and domineering are going to be in the hellfire. So domineering, we have to make sure we're not domineering. Sometimes we like to be in control of everything. We like to be in control of the situation. We like to control other people, right? We want to be the main person at the meeting to lead the discussion. We want to have the last word, come up with the best idea, come up with that great suggestion. We want to be in control. So that's an example of somebody who's domineering. And people who are domineering, they think that they're indispensable. They think they're indispensable to their company, their community, their masjid, their organization, whatever they're part of. They think they're indispensable. And they think, how will life go on without me? I'm indispensable. I have to be a part of everything, and how will life go on without me? And those are the people who are, of course, domineering and arrogant, are the ones that end up in the hellfire. This book on leadership says that humble leaders know they are not indispensable to their organization. They are well aware that cemeteries are full of indispensable people. They know full well that there are many others who could do the job just as well as them. So no one is indispensable. And humble leaders know that they could be replaced and that life goes on without them. As it says here, humble leaders know that indispensable people end up in the cemetery just like everyone else. And according to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, those people who consider themselves indispensable not only end up in the cemetery, but actually end up in the hellfire. So we have to be very careful that we are not amongst the arrogant and domineering people that the Prophet ﷺ warned against. So again, following the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, you are able to develop the quality that it takes to be a great leader. The Prophet ﷺ reminded us, what you know about your innermost self should be enough to prevent you from seeking out the faults of others. Be honest with yourself. You know who you are. You know that you make mistakes. You know that you do sins. So keep that in mind. Ibn Abbas said, if you wish to mention the faults of your friend, mention your own faults first. Right? Don't criticize other people. Don't go around looking for faults in other people. Because if you're true to yourself, you know that you have a lot of faults in yourself as well. No one is perfect. Look at yourself first. And if you know and you think about your faults, how can you be arrogant? How can you think you're better than another person if you are true to yourself and know that you have so many faults in yourself as well? So that's what the Prophet ﷺ is reminding us of. This author on leadership says, humble leaders know they are capable of making errors and are conscious that the greatest fault of all is believing you have none. Exactly what the Prophet ﷺ said. Don't fool yourself and think that you don't have any faults. Right? So if you follow the hadith of the Prophet, that's exactly what this author on leadership is saying. And if we could follow the hadith and example of the Prophet ﷺ, we will automatically and naturally develop the qualities of a great leader. So one of the clearest examples of the humility of the Prophet ﷺ would be that when he sat in the masjid with his companions, and if a stranger or a visitor came to the masjid, he would not know who the Prophet was until he asked, which one of you is the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ? That's because he would not sit, dress, and be treated in a way that would distinguish him from his companions and from the other people. So he was so humble that you could not recognize that this was the Prophet ﷺ, that this was a leader of the Ummah at that time. This was a leader of Arabia at that time. People who were coming from outside had to ask, which one of you is the Prophet ﷺ? That's how humble he was, and that's how he sat, and he walked, and he dressed, and he interacted, where he could not be distinguished from his companions. This author says, nowadays, leaders separate themselves from others. Their offices are in the C-suite, right? That's where in the corporation and the company, all the leaders hang out. So the C-suite is where the CEO hangs out. And then the office next to the CEO is the CFO. And the office next to the CFO is the COO. So all their offices comprise the C-suite. So leaders, they separate themselves off and they find a corner and they call it the C-suite. What this author on leadership is saying, leaders need to get out of their C-suites and walk around and interact with their constituents. Prophet ﷺ did it so well that you couldn't even recognize that he was a leader amongst the people. He interacted with them on such a basis that he was always with them and was amongst them at all times. So again, Prophet ﷺ is showing us 1,400 years ago what this author today is saying, that leaders need to get out there and be amongst the constituents. And the Prophet ﷺ was already amongst the companions, so much so that you can even recognize that he was the leader of the Ummah at that time. Respect. So the Prophet ﷺ said regarding respect, do not be of those who do by others as others do by them, and say that we will do them a favor if they do us a favor. And if they will be mean and unjust to us, then we too will be mean and unjust to them. On the contrary, resolve that you will do good if the others do good, and if they do a wrong act and act unjustly, even then you will not be unfair and mean to them. So the Prophet ﷺ is telling us that we should always be nice to other people and kind and respectful to other people, and don't just do it just because they're nice to you, and I'm going to be nice to them as well. We should always treat people in a kind way, in a respectful way, in a dignified type of way. So we must treat others with kindness and respect at all times. Even if you think they don't deserve to be treated that way, you still need to treat them in a respectful and a kind type of way. As this hadith is saying, even if they're wrong, acting unjustly, and are unfair and mean, that's not the way of a Muslim. You still will act in a respectful way, in a kind-hearted way, even if you think that they don't deserve that from you. Nevertheless, you need to take the high road, and you always need to treat them with kindness and respect and dignity. This book on leadership says, leaders choose to treat all people like important people, even if they behave poorly or don't deserve it. So again, exactly what the Prophet ﷺ was saying in the previous hadith. The Prophet ﷺ teaching us the qualities of a true leader. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever feels happy at people standing up out of respect to him should better make his abode in the hellfire. So we have to be very, very careful. Sometimes people get into the habit, when they walk into the room, they expect that everybody should stand up meet them, and then they start to feel that, oh, I must be so special. All these people got up as I entered the room, and they feel that in their heart. They feel this happiness in their heart. And the Prophet ﷺ is saying, you got to be careful, because that's a sign of arrogance. When you start to feel that pride in your heart, that I must be something special, because all these people got up as I came in, so I must be something special. So you start to develop that arrogance and pride. And the Prophet ﷺ is saying that then, if that's happening, you feel that in your heart, then be ready to have a place in the hellfire, because that's showing that you're developing pride and anger in your heart. So Muslims don't go around trying to get respect from other people. They don't go around saying, okay, oh, I'm the leader, I'm the imam for the masjid, I'm so-and-so, so you got to respect me now. That's not how Muslims behave with other people. Muslims look for ways to treat other people with respect. They don't go around looking for people to respect them. They look for opportunities to be able to respect others and treat them in a respectful way. This book on leadership, this author says, same thing about leaders. Leaders don't look for respect. They look to give respect to others. So again, exactly what the Prophet ﷺ was teaching us with that previous hadith. Okay, so this is a very interesting hadith, or a situation that occurred with the Prophet ﷺ. So a companion came to the Prophet ﷺ one time, and he came to the Prophet and said, "O Prophet ﷺ, who is better, me or Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu?" And the Prophet ﷺ said, Hazrat Abu Bakr. Then the companion said, "O Prophet ﷺ, who is better, me or Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu?" And the Prophet ﷺ said, Hazrat Umar. Then the companion stayed quiet and he left at that point. Why do you think this companion was coming to the Prophet ﷺ and asking him if he was as good as Hazrat Abu Bakr and Hazrat Umar? Why do you think that was happening? Any ideas? Any thoughts?
Because he gave him so much respect, he felt he was the most beloved people to the Prophet.
Exactly. He saw how the Prophet treated Hazrat Abu Bakr, and then he saw how he treated him. And he said, my gosh, he's treating me the exact same way as he's treating Hazrat Abu Bakr. The same respect, the same importance, the same eye contact, the same attention. And he started to think, maybe I'm just as good as Hazrat Abu Bakr. Then he saw that was with Hazrat Umar. And he thought the same thing. Maybe I'm just as good as him. So he actually went, can you think about the audacity of this person to go to the Prophet ﷺ and say, compare himself to Hazrat Abu Bakr and Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu? But that's because the way the Prophet treated him, that he felt that way. It felt so special when he interacted with the Prophet ﷺ, right? So the companion asked this because the Prophet ﷺ always made him feel special. The Prophet treated him that way. He made him feel important, respected him, always found the positive in him. That's how the Prophet ﷺ interacted with everyone. That's how he interacted with every person that he came in contact with. He valued what they said. He valued their opinions. He respected them. That's how he treated everyone, whether they were Hazrat Umar, Hazrat Abu Bakr, or another companion that was not at that level potentially. So this author narrates a little scenario about a woman that dined with two different statesmen, so two different leaders that this woman had dinner with. And she said, when I left the dining room after sitting to Mr. Gladstone, the first leader, the first statesman, she said, I thought he was the cleverest man in England. And then she said, but after I sat with the second statesman, the second leader, Mr. Disraeli, I thought I was the cleverest woman in England. Right? She was treated respectfully by that second leader, that second statesman. So that when she walked away, she felt respected. She felt special. She felt important. So much so that she thought she was the cleverest woman in England. Right? Isn't that exactly what Prophet ﷺ was doing with his companions? Isn't that exactly how he treated other companions? This leader, this second statesman, Mr. Disraeli, he was doing exactly what the Prophet ﷺ was doing. Interacting with people in such a positive way, in such a respectful way, that they walked out of there feeling so special, as if they were the best of the best companions then. That's how we should be treating other people. That's what leaders should be doing as well. So Prophet ﷺ told us that, showed us that, taught us that 1,400 years ago. And now this, I don't know who these statesmen are, but they're real people from England, probably in the last century, right? So 1,400 years later, these people are doing exactly what the Prophet ﷺ taught us, the way we should respect each other and everyone that we come in contact with. So again, treating people with respect. treating people like they're important. Next hadith, do not belittle any good, even meeting your Muslim brother with a cheerful face. So we should be happy when we meet each other. We should be happy when we interact with each other. We should smile and greet each other, and always be cheerful when we're meeting with each other. Then, and it's hard to do. The problem is we have trouble because we start to look at all the negatives in that other person. We see them in a negative way, so it's hard to bring a smile on your face when you're annoyed with that person because of who they are or what they did or how they treat people, right? So the way to have a cheerful face when you meet with other people is always look at the positive of a person. Always see the positive in the other person, and that's the only way you're going to be able to bring a smile to your face when you interact with that person. Don't look for the faults of the person. Don't look for the negative in the person. Always look for the positive in that other person. That's the only way you can meet that person with a cheerful face and smile when you meet and greet that person then. What do leaders do? They put a 10 over everyone's head. Leaders can only see the good in people. That's exactly what the Prophet ﷺ wants us to do when we interact with other people. See the good in them so that you're happy to see them. You're cheerful when you interact with them. That's exactly the quality that we should have as a Muslim. That's exactly what Prophet ﷺ taught us. And that's what leaders need to be like as well then. Okay, look at another video here.
Real quick, I want to get your feedback on the meeting we just had.
Sure.
On the purchasing decision process thing. Honest feedback.
Okay.
What did you think about it?
I think that you all are doing the best job you can. Leadership is doing great. I think our team can do something, a few things to help moving forward. I think first, the procedures need to be pushed out in 2 or 3 languages minimum. What we've done now in this business sufficient. Second, I think the scale and the scope of what we're doing is massive. And I think we ought to just try it out in a few regions. Just test it. I think it would behoove us to get some feedback from some other regions.
Hey, yeah, no, I've been trying to get one.
Okay. So, an example of a leader who's not really respecting the opinion of the other person then, right? So, an example of a bad leader who does not have that quality. Okay, so selflessness, another quality of a leader, and hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Actually, this is something that Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, that there are 2 types of zakat. One is the zakat that we pay on our wealth, and the other is a zakat that we have to pay on our body, meaning that we have to serve others with our body. We have to make others' misfortunes, put them onto ourselves, make other misfortunes one's own. Remove the difficulty by taking it off their back and putting it onto your back. So we should be serving others. We should be helping others. We should be sacrificing and not being selfish and only thinking about ourselves. We need to be thinking about how we can help others as well. So books on leadership say leadership is meeting the needs of others, the will to serve and sacrifice for others, the willingness to set aside our wants and our needs, and seeking the greatest good for others. So again, exactly what a Muslim should be doing is helping others and serving others. This hadith we looked at already about simple acts of kindness and helping others, and acts of charity and selflessness. So again, how a Muslim should act is exactly the way a leader should be acting as well. So leaders think about others and their concerns before thinking about themselves. So it's about servanthood. Servanthood is the ability to put others ahead of yourself and your personal desires, and performing small acts of kindness consistently. So again, that list in this hadith, small acts of kindness that we should be doing consistently. Okay, so there was a time, one time in Medina, when the people heard a noise in the distance as a storm was coming. And they began to worry about what was this noise, what was happening out in the distance. There was some danger of what it was. So they finally decided to send someone to check it out. And as that person started to leave, the people saw a light coming from the distance. And they watched the light get closer and closer, and finally saw it was the Prophet ﷺ coming holding a lantern. And they asked what he was doing. He said he had went and checked out the noise already, and that everything was fine, everything was all right. So he had already checked it out while everyone else was still thinking about going to check it out. So this is Prophet ﷺ putting the concerns of others ahead of his own concerns. Taking the risk and going out and checking out the noise before anybody else, they were still thinking about going and checking it out. He had already done it. So he was more concerned about others and serving others. So this is an example of Prophet ﷺ being selfless and going out and helping others and looking out for the benefit of others. So this author of leadership says, a leader does not believe that once they have arrived as a leader, it is their turn to be served. So many times we think, okay, you're the leader now, so now people got to start serving me because I'm the leader. Prophet ﷺ was not like that. He could easily have assigned somebody to go and check out the noise, but he did it himself. He didn't delegate to somebody else. He did it himself. So as a leader, you must choose between being a servant leader and a self-serving leader. So the Prophet ﷺ gave the best example of being a servant leader. He went out and checked out the noise and served the people versus being a self-serving leader. Nowadays, leaders are much more self-serving. They're more interested in themselves. Prophet ﷺ was a perfect example of a servant leader going out and helping others and serving others. And it's interesting, this author of this book, he wrote this book on how to become a servant leader. Prophet ﷺ showed us how to be a servant leader 1,400 years ago. He wrote the book on how to be a servant leader through his hadith and sunnah. So we should be looking at his example. Okay, let's skip this video in the interest of time. Okay, so last quality, forgiveness. So Hazrat Anas radiallahu anh was the Prophet ﷺ's servant for 10 years. And he said afterwards that the Prophet never even said oof to me. Meaning, he never said, well, why'd you mess that up? Or, how'd you do it, why'd you do it that way? He never scolded me, he never criticized me for doing something wrong, he never questioned why he had done something in such and such way. So the Prophet ﷺ accepted his limitations, knew he was going to make mistakes, and was forgiving of those, and corrected him in a kind and gentle way if he didn't do something properly. So books on leadership, they say regarding forgiveness is letting go of resentment. Leaders know people are going to make mistakes. They may let you down. Leaders accept limitations in others. And leaders have the capacity to tolerate imperfection. Prophet ﷺ said in this hadith, the deeds of mankind are presented before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on 2 days of each week, Monday and Thursday. And the decision of forgiveness is taken for all believers except the two who bear malice against one another. As regards to them, the command is given to leave them out from the list of those who have been forgiven until they have cleaned their hearts of ill will. So this hadith is telling us that twice a week we have the chance to be forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, provided you do not have a grudge in your heart against somebody. If you have some ill feeling against somebody, the two people that have that grudge against each other, they are not included in the people being forgiven twice a week then. So if we want to be amongst the people who are forgiven, we should not be holding grudges. No resentment, no ill feelings. That's how Muslims should be behaving. We should forgive and forget and not hold anything in our hearts. What do leaders do? According to this author, leaders are able to let go of resentment. It often lingers when people hurt us or let us down. Letting go is not about letting people getting away with bad behavior. Rather, forgiveness involves going to people and communicating assertively how what they have done has affected you, dealing with it, but then letting go of any lingering resentment. So again, quality of a leader is to not have ill feeling, not to have resentment, and to hold grudges then. This is a hadith on leader, specific for leaders. Prophet ﷺ said, it is better for a leader to make a mistake in forgiving than to make a mistake in punishing. So if you're going to make a mistake, err on the side of forgiving someone versus erring on the side of punishing someone. What if it's the wrong person? What if the circumstantial evidence implicates somebody else? What if your punishment is out of proportion to what you think they deserve for that bad behavior? And it was excessive, right? On the Day of Judgment, we don't want our deeds to be stolen away from us and given to somebody else that we might have wronged. Okay, so one time the Prophet ﷺ was sitting in the mosque with some of his companions when a Bedouin urinated inside the mosque. The Prophet's companions came running to him and said, "What are you doing? What is he doing? And we're going to stop him." The Prophet ﷺ said, "No, let him finish. Do not interrupt him." And then afterwards, he called the man and said to him, "These mosques are not the place where one can throw any dirt, urine, or stool. They are meant for reciting the Quran, glorifying God, and prayer." Then he called for a bucket of water and he poured it over the urine. So he corrected this person with kindness. He didn't start yelling at him and say, "What are you, stupid? What are you doing? What's wrong with you?" Right? Starting to make all these comments and yelling and screaming at the person. No, he was gentle with them and kind to them. Let him finish. Do not interrupt. And he took him to the side and said, "This is not what we do in the mosque," and corrected him with kindness then. So he separated what the person did and not making judgment about the person. What do leaders do? Leaders separate the person from the behavior. They don't say, "You're stupid" or "You're lazy." They tell them what specific behavior was unacceptable. So they separate that out and they give feedback, but without making judgment about the person. Exactly what the Prophet ﷺ did when he was correcting that person then. Okay, last couple minutes then as we wrap up. So we talked about the 6 qualities that are important for a leader and what the hadith say about that. So leadership of the Prophet ﷺ. So what do other people say about his leadership? We talked about one, Michael Hart, right? We said that in the beginning, that he wrote the book, The Ranking of the Most Influential Persons in History, and gave Prophet Muhammad ﷺ the #1 ranking as the most influential person. And he was actually Jewish, but he recognized the Prophet ﷺ as a leader and influential person in history. So he said, "My choice of Muhammad ﷺ to lead the list of the world's most influential persons may surprise some readers, may be questioned by others, but he was the only man in history who was supremely successful on both the religious and secular level." So he chose him because he was supremely successful, not only in religion, but in the secular level as well. Meaning that he was a leader when it came to running a government. He was a leader when it came to leading an army. He was a leader when it came to being a businessman. He was a leader when it came to being the best husband. He was a leader when it came to being the best father. He was a leader when it came to being the best teacher. So he's a leader in every single respect. And he acknowledges that and recognizes that, and that's why he chose the Prophet ﷺ as the #1 most influential person in history. One other person that comments on the leadership of the Prophet ﷺ and actually uses his example in his own life, Mahatma Gandhi, in 1924, said in a book called Young India, "I became more than ever convinced that it was not the sword that won a place for Islam in those days in the scheme of life. It was the rigid simplicity, the utter self-effacement of the Prophet, his scrupulous regard for pledges, his intense devotion to his friends and followers, his intrepidity, his fearlessness, his absolute trust in God and his own mission. These and not the sword carried everything before them and surmounted every obstacle. When I closed the 2nd volume of the Prophet's biography, I was sorry there was not more for me to read of that great life." So Mahatma Gandhi had actually read the life story of the Prophet ﷺ. He had read his biography. And Mahatma Gandhi actually studied the life of the Prophet ﷺ in Makkah as his life of nonviolence during that time. And then Gandhi actually adopted the Prophet's divine approach of nonviolence, and that's what allowed him to be the leader that freed India from the British. So Gandhi actually was successful as a leader because he adopted the example of the Prophet ﷺ. Isn't it sad and shameful that non-Muslims, somebody who's Jewish, somebody who is Hindu, is using the life of an example of the Prophet ﷺ, adopting it and being successful, yet here we are as the followers of the Prophet ﷺ, the Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, and we're not appreciating that and recognizing that and using his example in our everyday life and how to be a good Muslim and how to be a leader. Alright, so last couple slides. So we said leadership in the beginning. We said the true measure of leadership is influence. Nothing more and nothing less. So you don't have to be in a position of leadership to influence others. You can have a positive influence on everyone you interact with. You can play the role of leader by helping others, serving others, encouraging others, showing kindness to others. You don't need to be a CEO or a president of a company or the boss or have some sort of title. Everyday people doing everyday things are leaders when they affect and influence other people in a positive way. We all have a circle of influence, meaning that we have a circle of people that we interact with. That can include our family, friends, classmates, co-workers, colleagues, and acquaintances. We can have a positive influence on these circle of people, meaning we can have a circle of influence that we can make a positive impact on. So we should keep that in mind. So if we have this society, if we have this community of people that we are living amongst, right? And let's say here we are as Muslims living in this society, this community, this neighborhood, whatever it is. We all have a circle of influence. So let's say this person has a circle of influence over these people. They can impact them and influence them in a positive way to help them understand what Muslims are really like. This person's circle of influence may be bigger. This person can influence all these people and give a positive impact about what Muslims are really like. And this person's circle of influence may be with these people. So if all of us use our circle of influence to positively impact other people, we can cover everybody in a community, everybody in society. And there's actually then could be overlap amongst our circle of influence as well. So we have to keep that in mind, that we all have a circle of influence that we need to use effectively to have a positive impact on people. I'll show you a brief video because it really highlights this. Then we'll be done.
My name is Bruce Meredith. I've been working with the C. What's up, man? What's going on, man? Take care, man.
That's exactly why we're doing this. So, Bruce over here, every single morning when he got in, he says good morning to every person that walks by. They're always super friendly, whether it's beautiful outside or freezing cold. It's incredible.
He's always got a nice word to say to people, and it's so nice to have somebody like that who really seems to care about the commuters.
This gentleman right here, he is so helpful, so thoughtful, always engaging, always friendly. We rely on him to be here.
It's just a part of who I am. It's probably a lot of my upbringing, but at the same time, I just like to be a positive person. I like to stay positive, and thankfully, it's received by people I come in contact with.
I have to wait until this moment to get like a good morning. You know, so like 45 minutes in the morning, so he's kind of like the first person I talk to. And yeah, I mean, he brightens my day. He brightens a lot of people's day. I know that. You know, sometimes I'll have to wait to say hi to him or wait to give him a hug and stuff because everybody else is doing that first.
I get to meet new people, or the same people. People become an extension of the family. You know, I develop friendships. But I guess the best thing about my job is that I have a platform. This is my own little corner of the world where I can make my own little change, my own difference in the world. I can, you know, make an atmosphere that's conducive for people to be happy. And I've always believed that it's not about what others do, it's about what you do. So I make the choice, and I live with that choice, and I'm happy with that choice.
So he is demonstrating so many qualities of a leader, and actually of a Muslim, right? He's happy, he's saying salam, saying good morning, he's greeting people, he's positive, he's using his circle of influence to have a positive impact on people. He's a CTA worker. no official role in title or position in leadership, but he's making a positive impact using his circle of influence. So that's what we need to do as Muslims. We need to use our circle of influence and affect people in a positive way. That's the best way we can do dawah. That's the best way we can show other people what Muslims are truly like. If we use our circle of influence in that way, you know, sometimes we wonder, what can we do with all the stuff going on in the world, all the negative media attention, all the extremist things that are happening in the world? If we use our circle of influence, the way that we should use it is, when something like that happens, people should say, wait a minute, the Muslim I know, the Muslim I interact with, they're not like that. The people that are doing that, that can't be representative of Islam and true Muslims. Because the person I know displays so many great qualities. The person I know who's a Muslim and a potential leader is patient, is kind, is humble, is respectful, and selfless, and forgiving. That's how we should be influencing other people. That's how we should be using our circle of influence and impacting people in a positive way. So if we can implement the hadith and the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ into our lives, we will become a great Muslim, become a great person, and become a great leader. So I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He allow us to follow the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, to follow his example, to implement into our lives, and inshallah we could, inshallah will become great Muslims, great people, and great leaders. Wa akhir da'wana walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Jazakallah khair for coming out with our Dr. Ramzan Shahid. That was a beautiful presentation on how to become a great leader. Since time is cutting short, if you guys want to grab food, on the right side we have the sisters and the brothers on the left side. If you do have individual questions, feel free to ask him. You'll figure it out. Okay. But yeah, Jazakallah khair for coming out.
I hear you.